No, you only get to play once. Stop doing that again. Welcome, everyone, to another weekend special. I was not planning on 2 weekends in a row we would have a double feature, but, sometimes things just align that way. So without further ado, I figured I would introduce our guest for the evening, Bill Pulte. Why are you down there all small? Let's fix that. There we go. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Good to be with you. Thanks.
Awesome. Now, I just wanted to plug this since this. Yeah, it's a little choppy, but your audio seems to be coming in fine.
Okay, I'm gonna do something with my signal too to make it so it's good. Go ahead.
But I just wanted to go ahead, and since this was the charity of the hour, to go ahead and promote it, the National Down Syndrome Society. Apparently, I didn't realize it when you promoted it to me that they were celebrating 45 years. So I figured I'd give them a plug to start things off. And I was trying to figure out a way, and I was figuring since I got you here to get people engaged to donate while we were doing the live stream. And you said you were pretty open as far as time constraints go. I didn't know if you wanted to maybe, if we got to a certain dollar amount tonight from our viewers, maybe doing round 2 for the funsies, or maybe some sort of fun little gimmick to get people interested in maybe a charity drive tonight.
Well, how about we do this? If anybody donates, they should comment. We'll read them out. Wow.
Sounds great.
Sounds
cool? Awesome.
So if you donate, we'll
that
do
works
it.
With me.
And if you tip this gentleman, which I guess you can tip him, I guess you can, then we'll read it and ask questions.
I'd rather they put the money to the NDSS as much as I like money. Let's do that. Maybe I get ad revenue from YouTube. Give your super chat money that you would put towards super chats and stuff like that to the NDSS.
Why don't you just take the super chat revenue and?
I was trying to set that up, but YouTube won't let. I'll go ahead and take it when YouTube pays me and put it in there.
Good,
but
do that.
YouTube used to let you set up charity drive things, but you have to have 10,000 subs, which I think is weird. But okay, sure, whatever. To sort of set us off on a jovial note, I kind of wanted to open with a question that'd be a little fun, considering some of the images that I saw leading into this. I was wondering, it actually killed that. I didn't want it to kill that. I'll pull up the screen share again.
You can ask me whatever you want, like I said.
Sounds great. First question:
and you're a GME
did you inhale?
Aren't you a meltdowner?
I do frequent on there. I just wanted to know to start.
You're the king of the meltdowners.
I doubt very much that I'm the king of the meltdowners. Hardly. But I just wanted to start off. Did you inhale?
That's a doctored photo. That's a doctored photo. What's up with the red eyes?
I don't know. It wasn't my image, so.
No, but I'm delighted to be with you. I have nothing against you. I have nothing against the meltdowners. I think they have a lot against me, and that's fine. But it's nice to be with you. And like I said before we got on, I do get a kick out of a lot of the things. So I have at least a good time with a lot of the shit that they say. So.
Well, that's good to know. At least this will keep it cordial and not as crazy as I thought it might turn into, maybe.
And I love your outfit too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Kind of came with the thumbnail that someone gave to me.
It's very memorable.
I kind of wanted to start things off because, from my understanding, I know I'm relatively new to this whole meme stock situation. I didn't come until 2022, but you kind of came in, after Ryan Cohen did, where you kind of. I guess the best way to explain it is you kind of agreed with his corporate governance philosophy is respect of corporate entities to the shareholders, executive compensation, things like that. Maybe you could give us a little bit of that in your own words.
Yeah, basically it was somebody who I didn't think was taking from the corporate coffers. They're like parasites, and they take money from these companies, and they have very little to no accountability. I was on the board of the Fortune 500 company that the meltdowners talk about me all the time on. And, when you're around these independent directors, a lot of them who are in their 60s, in some cases 70s, you make $250,000 a year to basically show up to 4 meetings. And so sometimes the incentives can be off. And so when you see a guy like Ryan Cohen, who's Asian, and you see somebody who's really putting up his own money, you say to yourself, wow, that's something that's different. And so I tend to think that Ryan's very smart. I tend to think that somebody who starts a business like Chewy is not a dumb person. I think a lot of people think that Ryan's a dumb person. And they say, well, he wasn't really behind Chewy and all this stuff. I tend to think very highly of him. And so I think, he captured my attention. And frankly, I wouldn't be as interested in GameStop if it wasn't for him.
So if Ryan Cohen wasn't in GameStop, you probably would not be interested in GameStop at all.
I think it'd be a big problem. Yeah, I think it'd be a big problem.
So I guess the big next question that I'd have
I
is
think the company would be
follow-up.
on the way to bankruptcy, if I'm being honest with you.
I guess the next big follow-up that I would have is from the last live stream that I had where I discussed you was, given that sort of philosophy, I'm trying to understand why you support Elon Musk on the Tornetta issue, as far as the Delaware Court of Chancery's ruling in Tornetta, where they said that his pay compensation was excessive, that he was on both sides of the transaction, and basically used that to get the compensation package he wanted, irregardless of fair dealing.
Because a lot of these guys, they get laughed at and mocked, and they have low market caps, and people say that their companies are going bankrupt, and they strike a compensation scheme during that whole process, in my opinion. And now you have a situation where he's built a mammoth, he's built a machine, and in my opinion, he should get paid for that. I mean, if you would have told the shareholders back in 2018 when that compensation package was done that the stock would do what it did, that the company would do what it did. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but guys like Jim Chanos and all these guys were saying this company's losing money, it's going to go bankrupt. And he's really pulled off a magic trick, kind of like Ryan Cohen has done, in my opinion. Frankly, Ryan Cohen should get a similar type of incentive, in my opinion.
My problem isn't with Musk getting a pay structure that is fair and adequate for what he's done at Tesla, because I personally don't think, like you said, they've turned a company that wasn't profitable into a profitable company, at least right now, barring, any economic future. None of us have crystal balls. But when you have an executive who's on both sides of the transaction and can establish, without any particular fair dealing, they can establish whatever terms they want to. In fact, in the ruling on Tornetta, it was pointed out that the terms for the stretch goals that would get him his bonuses, 3 of those he could get then in 2018 after the ink just dried, and 7 of them would be in total by 2019, and that he was in control of establishing the pay package. There was no give and take between him and the company. And that was the issue with it, not just the size of it, but that it was on, I guess the best way to put would be a breach of fiduciary duty, where he had complete control of the negotiations, regardless of, you could make, I'd say, a fair argument that Elon Musk deserves a good compensation, but was it argued for fairly?
I mean, was everything against him argued fairly? I mean, I think you don't really like him. You think he's kind of a fraud. Is that fair to say?
I think that he's definitely, I think he has talents in the corporate world, but I definitely think that he trades in a lot of hopium, if you know what I mean, where he gives very grandiose, a lot of these executives, they promote their company, and some definitely cross the line with their promotion of the company that they're operating.
I hear you, but at the end of the day, I think he's a world-class entrepreneur. I think he deserves every cent that he's earned, in my opinion. Anybody who can land a rocket ship back on a ship, in my opinion, is a brilliant man. And so, I don't know. I guess this is one where we'll have to disagree on. By the way, is everything going through with you? Is everything going through?
Yeah. Oh, it's much better now. The signal is all green. It's showing on my side.
Also trying to make sure if everybody could let us know. I'm looking at the chat. If you guys could let us know if the tips are working and stuff like that, I want to make sure that if that's important to you. And I appreciate you, by the way, making that donation to the
no problem.
Just so everybody knows, you donated $1,000, which is, meaningful.
Okay. So I think that covers most of the Tornetta stuff I wanted to go over. I know we had a fairly recent update that's kind of shook up the Bed Bath & Beyond stuff. I don't know if I'll be able to talk so much about that most recent filing in the DC case, I believe it was, that came out. But I know yesterday, I believe into today, but you'd have to correct me on that, you had some comments about the current plan administrator, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on those.
Well, I know your friend Amy We all love Amy, right? No. I know your friend Amy loves this guy, Goldberg, but in my opinion, this guy Goldberg, what is he doing responding to everybody and charging all these fees as it relates to the restructuring and answering people? And then on top of it, he's spending more time talking shit, in my opinion, about these shareholders who got screwed, in my opinion, and less time about these guys who did buybacks, less time about these executives who took this risk-free compensation and are just laughing at the door. I mean, these people, they laugh at these shareholders. They laugh. Goldberg, I think, laughs at these people. The executives, I think they laugh at the shareholders. You saw some of their text messages and stuff like that. So I just think that this Goldberg guy, and it's just my opinion, is bad news. I think that he shows contempt for the people who are paying his legal bills. And I think it's unbecoming of him to kind of treat people the way he has. That's just my opinion.
Well, I would like, I guess here I'll show the exhibit from docket ID 2161, which shows his fee structure as far as his payments. So he's on a fixed rate. It's not an hourly rate. The hourly rate was up to, I think, $250,000, it says here, on that first 90-day period. So now he's on the flat rate of the $35,000 per month. And the only incentives he gets is if he delivers.
This is all he's getting paid. I don't believe that.
Well, it's the only evidence that we have of what his payment structure is. So if you believe there's a different one, I would like to see evidence of it.
We don't have it, and I think we need to have it. Where is, for example, all of the work that all of his associates are doing on this? Where is all the subcontractors that he's paying for this? I mean,
that's still under his fixed fees, though, because they'd be paid under him.
I just don't believe it. And you're going to say to me, well, I showed you evidence that whatever. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I think these guys.
And you're free to believe it. My point would be that, look, I would love to go down any road with you, but I would need substantiation of such claims.
I don't think this is a substantiation right here.
It's a court document. How's it not a substantiation?
Because I think that you need to look at all the invoices for the guy. I want to see what in total did he charge. I see what you're showing me here, but I don't believe that this is everything. I just don't.
Well, this is the only thing
I don't trust these people. I don't trust them.
And again, I'd say it's fine if you don't trust them, but for me, and probably I would say the general public, to come along with you, you'd need to substantiate that. And I suppose that goes along to...
I don't think that's right. I think the general public would agree with me that you would need to see...
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, sir.
I don't think it's an extraordinary claim.
I think it is, because it's not been adduced by a court of law.
I think there needs to be a full accounting of everything that's gone on, okay? Including all of the vendors that have gotten paid, including all of these executives who got paid, including this guy, Mark Triton, how much he got paid. We need to see it all. And if you just show me one exhibit where it says this is how much he would get paid or whatever, I'm not going to believe that that's all the money has gone towards. I
would say if you have evidence of those things, you could establish them in the court. Now,
I'm trying to get evidence of those things. I'm trying to get evidence of those things. I've been asking for a waterfall. I've been asking for a full audit of this thing and see where the money goes. And this is what people do when you go to question things.
Have you petitioned the court for such things? Because I know you say, maybe before we get into that discussion, if you could go into depth, because I know you said you bought some bonds, are those the unsecured debt?
You keep interrupting me, and I'm not able to finish about the fees, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was wanting to establish, since you said you were a bondholder, then we could discuss the fees and everything based on, your standing and what you could present to the court. So you said you had bought some Bed Bath & Beyond bonds. Are those unsecured?
Well, I'd like to finish the conversation about the fees.
Okay.
I do not believe that this exhibit that you're showing me is representative of all of the legal fees and all of the subcontractor fees that are part of this restructuring. And you could call it ignorant. You could call it stupid. I call it just not being naive. I do not trust these people. I just do not trust these people. I do not trust these executives. And I certainly do not trust a lawyer who's been engaged, who talks to people the way that this guy talks to people. This guy, he treats people like shit, in my opinion.
Well, I guess the best place to look, I'd say, to start your investigation would be with the docket and the monthly fee statement. And that, I guess that's where we're going to have to leave it, because I don't think we're going to gain anything. We both have our own points on this and our own support, I guess, for those things. So what I wanted to ask was,
and I would also say too, again, I don't I haven't seen the fees. I haven't seen a full audit. But here you have $35,000 a month this guy's making. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have any cap on how long that can go on for?
I think it's until the bankruptcy is concluded in the normal course of business.
So is he incentivized to speed this thing up or elongate?
Obviously, because his whole payment structure is based on making sure, like the three branches of his bonus structure is to make sure that the DIP and FILO lenders are paid out.
But if he's getting paid 35 grand a month, isn't that a lot of money to just sit on?
Yeah, but he could get paid multi-millions of dollars if he kept the money tight. So
okay, but he's going to get that.
But
he's going to get that money at some point anyway. 35 grand.
No,
a month
he isn't.
Is a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
But it's nowhere near 150 million if he simply got 0.5% to the DIP or FILO lenders.
But he could get the money in a year. He could get the money in 2 years. He could get the money in 3 years. He could just sit on his ass, take his time, which in my opinion, they've taken their time way too long. They should have been filing these things immediately. I don't know if you know this James Hunter guy, but he's a killer in my opinion. I think he's a strong lawyer and stuff. They should have hired him a long time ago. And now they're just starting these legal proceedings. I think it's a joke.
Well, I think that gets kind of to the point you were making, that they weren't going after the people who were doing all these buybacks and taking all this money out of the company. But he did file that lawsuit in New York State court. So I guess I don't follow.
I guess he does one thing right. So, but a dollar late and a day, what is it? A day late and a dollar short. Something
like that. So I guess to get to those,
these people, they don't give a shit, in my opinion. These executives who drove it into the ground, these restructuring officers, they don't give a shit about these guys, these shareholders at Bed Bath & Beyond. They laugh at them and they talk down to them.
Well,
and you kind of did that too, to be honest with you, you and your cohorts.
To be fair, this company was insolvent. It was insolvent walking in the door, and these people knew it when they made that investment.
Because of these morons who ran it.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't give Adam Aaron any slack in AMC about that either. But like Adam Aaron, I get what he was trying to do, but he failed completely at it. And I think that's what happened here. And I'm not going to give those executives any slack either, but you have to know your investment when you buy into it. It's part of the due diligence you're supposed to do.
In my opinion, the people who invested in Bed Bath & Beyond knew that it was risky. They knew that it was a gamble. And I think when people try to say, well, these people are so stupid for investing in it, a lot of them knew that it was a risk. I mean, I don't know if you've spent a lot of time. You should have come to our rally, which was amazing, by the way. It was really good. I mean, I know you saw it on camera, but that was pretty good, right?
It was probably better in person.
These people are good people. You should take, I mean, I know you're talking to me today. I'm like the first person you've ever talked to on this side of the fence. Well, these are good people. These are not stupid people. And you could think that they're stupid people, but they're just not. They are people.
I don't think they're stupid people. I would clarify. I don't think they're stupid people. I think that they made a decision that they don't want to own up to. You're saying that they knew it was risky, but they don't want to deal with the ramifications of that risk.
I think they do want to deal with the ramifications of the risk. I think, though, that if they're going to pay people like this Goldberg guy, and if they're going to pay these executives to run the thing into the ground, then those people need to be held accountable. And I don't understand why
Goldberg came in after it was ran into the ground.
No, they didn't. A lot of Goldberg did, but not a lot of the shareholders did. A lot of these shareholders were this thing when they were trying to turn it around, and they believed in Ryan Cohen, and Ryan Cohen tried to save the company. But these executives, they just can't help themselves. They're so incompetent. They couldn't help themselves. And, I just think to look at these people like they're some dumbasses who don't understand reality. They do understand reality. It's just they want to make sure that these people are held accountable, and that's what I'm trying to help them do.
But do they understand reality when a court of law has already said that their shares are worthless? They've been extinguished. They no longer exist.
Well, that may be true, and I've said that before. That may be true, but that doesn't mean that there's not recovery to those shares. And I'll tell you something that's funny is
there is no recovery because they don't. Sorry,
you don't know if there's no recovery. You haven't seen an accounting. All you're showing.
I can look at the balance sheet.
Okay, you could look at the balance sheet, but you don't know. You haven't seen a waterfall. You haven't seen an accounting. You don't even know how much this Goldberg guy's getting paid. You're sitting here trying to defend this guy who's clipping $35,000 a month. $35,000 a month, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would have donated 30 grand today if you were making that a month. I mean, to the Down syndrome people.
Pretty cheap.
I mean, in my opinion, it's a scam. These restructuring guys, in my opinion, and, I wouldn't be saying that if he had done a good job and was treating people with, accountability and giving accounting and stuff like that. But they look at people like us and people in the BBBY as if they're stupid, and they have great contempt for people.
I would say that the respect thing is a two-way street, and that he's dealt with a lot of people who have not been respectful to him in turn.
I mean, you know, I just think there's a way to deal with people and not to deal with people. And I just look at these things, and I look at like your friend Doug Saifu, and I think, you know, there's a reason people hate these people. And I'd say a lot of people don't hate you. I have to give you credit. A lot of people don't hate you, because I don't think you have, I think you can call people dumbasses and you can play those games, and that's funny. But I don't think you generally hate those people or talk. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. But you don't seem to have that same kind of attitude towards a lot of people that like Saifu does.
Well, my big thing is like, even though I know the facts of the situation, I sincerely hope for the best. Like, if there was some sort of way that they could get some sort of compensation, but the court is already adjudicated on the matter. So I can only go with what the court has said, what the facts of the matter are. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to report on what the reality of the situation is. So I'd agree with you that I don't hate, like, people, like, I think people get caught up in the social media thing. I don't hate people, but I just wish that they would take more time to do the research into this, that, you know, you seem to
like
promote.
Making fun of people for being poor and stuff like that, which it appears to me that he's done. I just, you know, it's unbecoming from my perspective of especially of a public executive, but that's just my opinion.
So one of the other things I think came up, and I don't know how far you've looked into that, but there was I think a part of what, and maybe you can correct me on this, was the Ryan Cohen buyout offer for $400 million.
Yeah, which was not proactively disclosed. That's another thing. And you guys say, well, these are, you know, conspiracy theories or whatever. Well, he offered $400 million for this company. And it took how many months for that to come out? That's not normal.
I think part of that situation is why it was, you know, rejected was they had, I think they said 70 different offers, and he was one of them. And you have to take into consideration that, from my understanding, all he wanted was the Bye Baby assets. And so when you're looking at it from a purchase standpoint in a company, you've got this sinking ship. Sure, you're trying to get cash in the door, but that $400 million isn't going to help your situation. You're taking the most profitable part of the business, I think we can agree on, the Bye Baby section, and leaving the Bed Bath & Beyond a shallow husk with a bunch of debt still, like $2 billion. And so that wasn't going to help shareholders. They were more than likely going to reject it. So I think I can understand where you're coming from, but I think there's a lot more nuance to that situation from the corporate perspective of how you have to find a deal that is right for all the parties involved. And there was no deal out of those 70 offers that were right for all the parties involved, that was going to be approved by the shareholders, that the bondholders were going to be okay with, and was, at the end of the day, going to be profitable to the person who was the prospective buyer.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, Ryan says he joined the board. He put his money where his mouth was. They told him to go fly a kite. A lot of times they go and they tell these guys their own money up to go fly a kite, and then he sells the stock. I would have sold the stock if I were him too.
Oh, I would have sold it too if the board told me to go fuck myself. But, you know, that's kind of neither here nor there. He sold. And
then he tried to make another offer for it. And it's just amazing to me that these people and how they treat shareholders with such contempt, when really they're the ones who are driving these companies into the ground. And that's what I speak out about. I don't think you'll have any argument from me that corporate governance is lacking, and that there's a lot of companies, especially in the meme stock space. Let's talk about corporate governance. Do you think it's appropriate for a guy like Doug Saifu, who gets paid $8 million a year, to be allowed by his board of directors to sit on Twitter, which I don't think is probably going to be happening a lot more based on what I've seen? He's slowed down a lot. Do you think it's appropriate from a governance perspective to have an executive be doing that type of conduct?
I think it has absolutely nothing to do with his role as a corporate executive, but he's
I
free
think
to
a
do
lot of,
whatever he wants to in his free time.
I don't think it's free time when he's doing it during the day. I don't think it's free time at all. And you saw this thing with Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones was playing a lot of these same shenanigans where he's spending his day tweeting at me and stuff like that. That's not appropriate. It's not the
And he had
conduct of a public
repercussions for that. He
executive.
was fired from Pulte Homes, was he not?
That's correct. He was, and we're getting to the bottom of that. So, stay tuned.
Well, I definitely will be staying tuned. I have a feeling you already know that, though.
I know, and I know you've watched it, and I appreciate you watching it. I'd like to see you and Amy, for as disgusted as you guys are with me, I'd like to see a little bit more. If you could be disgusted with me, fine, but you should also be disgusted with what this Brandon Jones did. He impersonated my dead grandpa, came up with a fake account, started talking as if he was my dead grandfather. These things are of a sick individual, in my opinion, a sick individual. And I think that if you want to convince the masses, which maybe you don't want to, maybe you just want to have 6 people watch your show. And I tend to think you should have more than 6 people because I actually think you're somewhat of a talented guy, to be honest with you. But if you want to convince the masses, you have to at least give people credit where credit's due. And when Ryan Cohen bids $400 million and they take forever to disclose that, it's like, why did it take forever to disclose that? If you think that it was a shame that the board of directors told Ryan Cohen to go fly a kite, then why don't you say that? If you think it's a disgrace that Brandon Jones was impersonating my dead grandfather and a sequence of other identities to spend his days harassing me, why don't you say that? But instead, you guys, make fun of these things. And in my opinion, it's why a lot of people don't take you guys seriously.
Well, I simply follow what's adduced in the court. So if you adduce that he is responsible for much more, then fine. I'll be happy to come along with that, but we'll
what are
see
you
how it
talking about?
goes.
Brandon Jones has admitted in court documents that he was behind these accounts. Brandon Jones has admitted that he's behind these things. And we're starting to uncover more and more and more. We learned in the lawsuit that he was behind the account impersonating my dead grandfather. What kind of sick person takes an obituary photo from a dead guy and goes and harasses the grandson? You can think whatever you want about me, but what kind of sick person, in my opinion, does that? And I just don't see you or Amy talking about that kind of stuff. You guys just want to shit on me, which is fine. That's your First Amendment right. But if you want us to take you seriously and you want my followers to take you seriously, which maybe you don't give a shit about them, then you have to give credit where credit's due.
Well, I think I do give credit when credit's due, but my point would be that, why not just block the guy?
And somebody says here in the chat, bullshit, anyone make fake profiles. It's just a false. It's just false.
All righty. So aside
from here's Amy encouraging the whole thing. It's a joke. It's a joke. See, this is why it's hard to engage in an earnest conversation. I appreciate that we're able to have an adult conversation right now, but I'm
well, that's why I don't generally focus on the chat. I focus on the people I have conversations with. I'll occasionally bring the chat in, but I find the chat to be a distraction.
Sure, but it's also indicative of what people are thinking. And in my opinion, people think that, well, I've said enough.
I don't care what people think. Like just to get back to your point from earlier, I don't care what people think. I personally only care about the facts. I guess the next thing I wanted to kind of go over you with was, I haven't seen like extensive communication with it, but I noticed that you've taken an interest in the MMTLP Nextbridge situation, but I haven't, I guess, gotten your full understanding of that situation. So I was curious about that one.
That's one that's hard to hold on one second. I'm going to just pump your stream here more. That's one that is a little bit more complicated to get your head around. I think it could be a lot simpler. I think it could be explained a lot simpler. I think that it is odd that they said, okay, I think it was like on a 9th, they said, okay, your trading is done, and it wasn't supposed to be done until the 12th. I mean, do you have any idea why that was? That was
to my, like the way I
odd.
understand it, because that's when I first sort of kind of taking more interest in the meme stop community. I started following Ramen Soup. He's really good about information as far as MMTLP, in my opinion. The reason is that since it was a distribution, it was kind of a wonky way to do a spin out, but they basically gave a preferred class of shares that was more or less a dividend. So if there was a cash payment, you'd get the cash payment and the shares would go away. Or they would spin out the assets, you would get the assets, and the new entity and the old shares MMTLP would be canceled. 12th was the cancellation date. And I would assume, as someone who is active in financial markets, you would understand the whole structure when you get a dividend payment. There's the record date and then the ex-dividend date when the actual money distribution is calculated and sent out.
Is it true or not that it was supposed to be trading until the 12th? Is it true or not that it was?
No, because the 12th is when the whole thing was going to be executed. So you need to calculate in T+2, because anyone that traded in that gap in the T+2 trading system would have shares, but since they weren't the owner of record, they get nothing for their purchase.
Well,
so
I'll have to look at that, but that's different than what I've been told. What I've been told is that they were explicitly told that it was supposed to trade off on the 9th. So I will look into that.
Yeah. And to be fair to you on trying to understand this, like now almost 2 years since it happened, a lot of the brokers at the time were confused by this, to be quite frank, even from my perspective, complicated transaction. And that's why FINRA had to step in and go, whoa, we can't have people being harmed by purchasing a security that at the end of the day would give them nothing.
Okay, but
have no value tied to it.
You're telling me that there was nothing improper with cutting off trading on the 9th when everybody argues that it was supposed to be on the 12th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'll look into it.
The other big thing from the MMTLP thing that I'd point out is that that insiders pumped and dumped this. They basically had positions in it, and people like John Berta and Greg McCabe sold at the top. So you have this sort of corporate governance issue where you have insiders taking advantage of a meme stock pump to unload their shares on unwitting investors. And I think that's why the SEC is investigating not just the transaction of the reverse merger between Metamaterials and Torchlight that became, MMAT and the MMTLP situation, but Palacaros and McCabe and some of these insiders, and why you've seen some of these security actions from shareholders going, whoa, this seems very dirty from multiple avenues.
Yeah, I'm admittedly, I'm not up to speed on all the insider trades. What mostly concerns me is if people were told that they were able to transact the security until the 12th and really it got shut off on the 9th. So if you're telling me that's not the case, then I'm going to need to go to the MMTLP people and ask them what the retort is to that.
And I would encourage you also go to Ramen Soup. That's where I've gotten a lot of clarification.
I would, but it's very hard to go and rely on people when they're not fair. For instance, I see, some of your people in here talking about the Jones thing. Any reasonable person would say this is not normal behavior of somebody doing it. And so when people don't call people out, it's like, I'd love to rely on just one person, like you're telling me this ramen guy, but I kind of need to go to the myself, because I can't really take you guys, and I really can't take Ramen Soups at his word. I wish I could, but I can't.
Well, the thing I'd say is that the exact same thing to some of these MMTLP promoters who had a financial investment and are biased in the other direction. So I guess the best thing to do is just, listen to both and come to some sort of middle ground conclusion, because what I found from a lot of the court cases I followed is you got one side, you got the other side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And
for
so
what?
that
for my court case?
Oh, no, just any court case. The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. One side's got their story, the other side's got their story, and the court adduces, like if it goes to trial, the jury determines what is factual, or if it goes to what's it called? If you get a verdict from the judge where it's only based on the law, the facts are not in dispute, and then you have a determination based on both sides' narratives. So more often than not, even in these legal cases, the truth is usually not black or white. It's somewhere in the middle. And I think that's the situation with MMTLP. Is there ways that, the situation that happened, like me personally, I don't think this transaction should have gone all the way down to FINRA and having to stop it on the last day of the last night. I think more scrutiny should have been given by the SEC to approving this transaction in the first place, because it was highly complicated. and investors were really left to listen to corporate executives who, as I've stated, sold at the top, pumped and dumped, if you want to call it, on these investors. So, that's the whole role of the SEC. They're supposed to be there as the beat cop, and you see situations, especially in some of these meme stocks, where these corporate executives take advantage of unwitting investors.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
The next thing I wanted to kind of cover, I'm going to take this down because we're not really covering the BBY stuff right now. No, I know little Pulte is a joke, but we don't need to keep you in the bottom corner of the screen.
I like it. I love that new account. That guy makes the best memes in the world.
I'll have to ask Dolphin to keep producing them for you then. So
the best part about it is that they're free.
Yeah, that's the best part of memes, is they're always free. So today, it was yesterday, I believe, you had produced a tweet where you had a few tickers that you had put out as to some, I guess, I don't know if you'd consider them investments that you thought were good or whatever. So I kind of wanted to go over some of them.
I think I know where you're going with it. And, from my perspective, I'm just doing it for the community, and I'm not here to do anything other than just to support people. So I don't know much of all these different people. Everybody should do their own research. I don't endorse anybody in particular. I don't whatever. So I just want to be
clear. These tickers, like say Rumble or like crypto, like Zach, you're just sort of engaging with the community. You're not really.
I'm just engaging with the community, and I'm supporting the community, and I'm not looking at it for any other reason than just supporting the community. There's no other reason than that. So, I mean, people are going to try to say, well, that means that you're a conservative if you're doing Rumble, or it means, oh, you're supporting this guy or that or whatever. It's like, I can do whatever I want.
So when Zach Morris put out that long tweet about you supporting his crypto token, that was just you engaging with the community. That wasn't so much about.
I can't tweet for him. I don't speak for him. He doesn't speak.
Right. I'm just trying to find where you said on it compared to him.
He's his own guy. You're your own guy. Frankly, people like him way more than they do Doug Seifu. So you explain that one to me.
I would love to get an explanation from the public on that one, because while he did a great job and had great lawyers that dodged the criminal allegations, he still sets in front of the SEC as far as the pump and dump.
I think a lot of people think, and I'm not saying that this is it, so it's just my opinion, but I think a lot of people think that Doug Seifu is a criminal.
If that's the case, then I'd love to see, the evidence for that. Bring it before a court of law. We just got done covering a lawsuit in the AMC community with Al from Boston, where he didn't have his facts there. He brought a big book of like I know some people would take it as a.
I'm not saying he is. I'm just telling you, a lot of people think that about him, and I see the tweets about him, and he doesn't answer questions, and it's very concerning. He doesn't answer questions.
What do you mean by doesn't answer questions? Because he seems
I've listed out a bunch of questions, and I think over time he will. But I've listed out a bunch of questions on my Twitter feed, and instead what he decides to do is try to personally attack me. I'm a shareholder of Virtue. I'm entitled to understand, for example, does he sell shares that he does not have custody of? Why can't he answer that question?
I mean, that's a market maker is allowed to do that to a certain limited degree.
If that's the case, okay, and I'm familiar with Reg Show, and you don't need to treat me like a,
No, I'm not going to. Like,
no, I know. But I'm saying that's where they go, right? They go into the personal attacks and say you need to read Reg Show, and can't you read Reg Show? And they show you the Reg Show. I know Reg Show. I'm asking him a question. Why is he so afraid to answer that question? If the answer is yes, then say yes.
I think that the answer already answers itself if you look at the balance sheet.
No, it doesn't answer. It doesn't answer.
How does it not answer it?
he has to answer the question. And this is not just Bill Pulte speaking. This is thousands or tens of thousands of people who want to hear from the horse's mouth, yes, I do sell shares that I do not have custody of.
Now, do you think that that's a problem that because that's just part of the market system?
I personally do think that the laws need to be changed to not do that. Yes. I think if Pulte Homes, in my opinion, were to sell a home that they did not have physical custody of or physical title to, I think that the business would be shut down. And I think that the laws do need to change. And I do think that, generally speaking, a lot of these people, in my opinion, are so corrupt and have politicians lobbying for them, like many other industries do, that they have enabled it so that way the laws are a certain way. And I think the laws need to change. And I think a lot of people think the laws.
Well, I mean, if you do stuff like that, then you're going to have stuff where, like banks, like if you extend that logic to the entire financial system, how are you going to give out a loan for money that you don't actually have custody for? Because a lot
you're
of
comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing apples.
Oh, I think I'm comparing apples and apples because you've got, well, you're comparing apples and oranges with houses and securities.
No, I'm not.
If
I'm
you're
not.
talking,
I'm
yes,
telling
you are.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you, physically, these people are purporting to, in my opinion, from what I understand, saying, hey, we're selling this security, and they don't have custody of it. And when you go to ask them about it, okay, it's very, very odd that they can't just straight up say, yeah, we don't have custody. Why won't Doug Seifu say, yeah, we don't have custody of it? He won't. But see, what he doesn't realize is he's actually speeding up. Well, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it yet.
But why
have me on at a later date? We'll talk about it.
Fine. Yeah. I like the idea of you coming back sometime just to answer some of these questions, but
he's cruising. He's doing a lot of things that, well, I'll just wait to say
why I bring up the bank analogy is because if they're selling, borrowing shares that they don't have, so they're borrowing it and then giving it to the person to complete that transaction.
Who are they borrowing it
the same way you would if you're a short seller?
Why aren't they showing who they're borrowing it from? Why are they fighting so hard with some of these transparency things? Why are they fighting so hard? Why is Seifu constantly attacking regulators and calling things just speeding tickets? Who else gets to call it that way?
Well, I think most people would call it a speeding ticket to like some of these fines. Like that I would say would go to a regulatory thing. And if you want to, I don't know if these debates are best focused on Twitter and would be best sent as to your congressman personally.
Somebody says it's their whole ass job. Yes, that's the problem. That is
But that's why I used the bank analogy. So if you're saying that Doug Seifu borrowing shares to complete a transaction and then closing the borrowing at some date is something that shouldn't be allowed, then you're
I don't think people should be able to sell things that they don't have custody of or don't own. I don't think so.
Well, then you're just saying that the loans shouldn't exist at that point.
If you're telling me Virtue's a bank, then that's news to me. But my understanding,
I'm not saying they're a bank. I'm saying that banks operate in the same way when they give you a loan for your house or your car or any other object.
My understanding is that market makers need to be way more transparent with what they're doing with payment for order flow, how they're front running trades, if they're front running trades, what's the spread that they're making on it. And there needs to be full visibility all the way from them through the brokerage houses, right to the retail shareholders, right to the retail.
The thing I would say about payment for order flow is, one, transparency, I think, is generally a good thing. But second, it makes up very little of the market comparatively. Like your two major brokers, Vanguard and Fidelity, don't do payment for order flow. In fact, I get great execution on my Fidelity trades without payment for order flow through Fidelity. It's usually these shit brokers like Robinhood. And it's because they don't have the assets under management to basically be able to facilitate their own trades. They don't have, I think that's why they started to go with IRAs. They want to get this money in the door that just sits there so they can facilitate their own trades without having to do payment for order flow like Vanguard and Fidelity does and all these bigger brokerage firms. So I think that the whole payment for order flow system is going to become the thing of the past by its own, if retail continues to invest in the way they have been in a reasonable manner to, retirements and in solid investments, I think this whole payment for order flow problem will solve itself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you calling it a problem because they don't think it's a problem. So,
well, I think it was an element of its time. Like when it came out, payment for order flow compared to going to your broker and having to execute some sort of volume trade. Otherwise, because every trade gets dinged for $20 to $50, like my grandpa used to have to deal with when he was with, I can't even remember the firm, but like there's hardly any firms now that, charge you like these upfront commissions, and payment for order flow eliminated that. Well, the financial system is always evolving. And so we're starting to get to that point, I think, where we're evolving past payment for order flow. It had its time and its purpose. And now, like the dodo bird, it's going away.
We'll see.
The famous line. So I guess maybe not frame it as a gotcha question, but because I know I've been niggling it at you and it's been fun. But I do want an answer to it, because I have seen people who've messaged me, not just on the chat, but in the private chat. So this whole thing with your PPP loan.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Well, you got me. Whoa, you guys got me. You guys got me. Uh-oh. And 200 million other Americans.
I think that's part of the problem. It's a scam that never should have been allowed by Congress in the first place.
I think the government.
I think its purpose was noble, but as a libertarian, I don't look at purposes. I look at outcomes, and the outcome was pretty shitty. I think you'd agree with that.
I mean, I think that the government has a spending problem, and I think
I
true.
agree 100% with that.
And I think the government mishandled a lot of things during that period of time, and nobody in particular. And you had businesses that suffered, and mine was one of them. So you can make fun of mine and say, oh, well, you made money and that's fine. But you know what? I have employees just like everybody else. I make no apologies for it. I think it's ridiculous that you bring it up, but I think it's funny that you bring it up.
Well,
and I'm happy.
I wouldn't have a problem with it.
And I'm happy.
Like if you took it out and paid it back, that would be fine with me. Like I have no problems. It's the fact that it was forgiven. That's my issue. Like it.
Take it up with your congressman.
I have been. The whole thing, not just you, but like the whole system in general was ripe for abuse. You just happen to be one of the people that I happen to know that I can poke at on Twitter about the abuse.
I mean, honestly, if you're going to attack me for something, I would hope that's what you attack me for. So I'll take that any day of the week.
At least you're open and upfront about that.
I have no apologies.
I'm just curious. I know some of these tickers, like you said, you just mentioned for engagement, but like I know you also
not for
had
engagement,
a position
to support the community, support the community.
Sorry if I took you a bit out of context there.
I don't need engagement. I mean, I have a massive Twitter account. I mean, you have a record following tonight. You have a record audience by a factor of like 100, and that's no offense, but you just do. I don't need engagement. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm not doing it for engagement. I'm doing it to support people. And I believe that crypto is a big way of disrupting people, like a lot of the crooked people we talked about earlier.
Before we get to the crypto issue, because I do want to come back to that, but I know that you had made some purchases in AMC as well, I believe. Yeah. Is that correct? Correct. I was wondering what your feelings on that situation were, because that's sort of where most of my following is at from that whole kerfuffle.
Well, I think that the business can survive. I think that the business should survive. I'd like to see some things done with the company, which I may talk about at a later time. I've said before that I think the CEO should be engaging with people like me. Some people didn't like that, but I think so. I think Ryan Cohen is maybe a different type of CEO than the guy who's in charge of AMC. So we'll see, but I'm not as excited about that CEO as I am Ryan Cohen.
Well, I would say, and maybe you disagree or not, I think that the AMC situation, maybe it won't go bankrupt, but I see it a lot like Bed Bath & Beyond, where it's a company that got over leveraged for whatever situation that you feel was the reason and got itself into a pickle. And now it's having to dilute its way out of the problem, which has been very damaging to shareholders.
I think it's got a lot of work ahead of it.
Mm-hmm. So on the crypto thing, on the general idea of crypto, I'm with you on the disrupting things, because I don't know if you've been following my channel so much, but I sort of started out talking about some of these econ things and the whole Triffin's paradox issue with the US dollar. So I think crypto does have a place. My problem is with the proliferation of these shit coins that try and ape some of the talking points that you talked about, where we're disrupting finance and all this stuff, but really it's just a
but there's a big
glorified
difference
pump and dump scheme.
There's a big difference though between certain things and people knowing that they're meme coins, right? A lot of people know that they're meme coins, and you know, a meme coin is very different, in my opinion, than like Bitcoin.
But I would agree with that. But I also have a problem with, say, the, like, what was it? The one that CoffeeZilla brought up, the Elon Doge Goat token going on Fox News and basically trying to present itself as some sort of investment thesis, when really, like you said, it's a shit coin, more or less.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I just know that because people like the people we talked about take themselves so seriously, these meme coins and Dogecoin and these things are meant to offer humor in a world filled with stinginess and staleness. And people just want to have fun. People just want to have fun. And, you know, I would say to you too, if you want to have more of my audience, and I don't know if you do, maybe you think my audience is full of a bunch of idiots, because that's the way I think you think about all of us.
I take it on a case-by-case basis.
But that's fine. You can think we're all idiots. You can think I'm an idiot. That's fine. But I'd like to think that people in general, myself included, want to have fun. And when people just constantly talk down to these people, why don't we empower these people? Why don't we say, you know what? Yeah, you did invest in a risky Bed Bath & Beyond, but you know what? We should be getting answers out of these people. But instead, you guys just make fun of these people all the time. And, you know, you can do that. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just saying, like, why not take that approach?
Well, I try and like limit it to a certain amount. Like I do produce a lot of these dockets from these bankruptcy cases where I know, and it's not about the views. I just want to make sure people have better access to
it's not about the views, but it's about affecting change. You keep talking about engagement and views, and people say, well, you know, you talk about views all the time and blah, blah, blah. No, we talk about effectuating change. And if nobody watches you, or if nobody cares about what you have to say, you can't effectuate change to hold market makers accountable for payment for order flow. You can't hold people accountable for wanting to change things if nobody cares about what you have to say. So you say, well, why are you doing this with these different meme coins and everything? Because we're trying to, in a fun, humorous way, effectuate change. And if you say, Bill, it doesn't effectuate change, I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that.
Well, now, I guess that's something we're going to have to agree to disagree on, because I think a lot of this is that.
Then go on the GME meltdown crowd and talk about it all day long, and you guys can have your circle jerk in your echo chamber. Okay, it's a bunch of dudes.
I would say that you do your own circle jerking.
Okay, well, you know what? At least I have a way bigger chamber than these people who all they do is hate on everybody. At least we have fun. And I look at the GME meltdown. I would say
we have fun too. You just need a bigger mop for the cum puddle.
I don't look at the people on GME meltdown, and I don't think that those people, you know, for instance, the only time I really see them having fun is when they're talking about Kais Malej, because he's fun. You know, it can even turn the most angry human being. But a lot of these other people and a lot of the things they say, they're so angry. You know, they're just so angry at people. And it's like, what's up with the anger?
Yeah. Well, my problem, I think, with a lot of this, like you talk about the engagement with these meme tokens, or I would call them, you know, shit.
No, I call them engagement with human beings. That's what I call it. I call it engagement with human beings who are invested in meme coins, who have people who talk down to them, governments who close their businesses down, governments who censor them, and they want some humor in their life. And you know what? They find it through meme coins, and they find it through a lot of other different ways.
But I think that a lot of these people do see it as a little legitimate investment. Like they're doing it like going to the casino. They view the entire financial markets from a nihilistic view. That's just a slot machine that they put money into. And so they're just looking for the next sucker to put more money in so they can get money back out. And I think that's a problem. It doesn't help the situation. All it does is harm new people.
Yeah, I disagree with that, obviously.
That's fine. I think that's part of the reason that these discussions are important, because you get to hear the other side. And sometimes you're going to have this situation where I wasn't the originator of the term, like financial nihilism, where people just are highly nihilistic about financial markets. And I think you're kind of speaking sort of to that, where you're talking about this disrespect is the wrong word. This feeling that the system is not working for them, so they just treat it like a game.
I don't know. I mean, I just think I think people should not take meme coins as if they're going to turn into some very profitable business. They need to realize what they're doing. They need to realize that they can lose all their money. I've said it before. People can even lose all their money on GameStop. You can theoretically lose your money on Pulte Homes. You can lose your money on any stock you invest in. And I don't think people are as stupid as a lot of people think that they are. And I think a lot of these people need to stop pretending like they're doing, God's work by saving people from their own idiocy. People are not stupids, in my opinion. Are not stupid, in my opinion.
I don't think that necessarily that in some cases they are stupid, because like I said, you've got this sort of nihilism that permeates financial markets right now. And I think part of it is something I think we can agree on, that there needs to be more transparency, more regulation. And on the other hand, you need to have this sort of financial awareness where I think you'd also agree on, where people need to be aware of these things that they're getting into are gambling tools, more or less, when you break down the fun meme part of it, that they're basically slot machines. And I think a lot of people are thinking with that nihilist mindset that I can't get ahead in my life. So if I put some money into this thing and it goes parabolic, then I will finally make it. And I think that that's the deeper cultural issue that's having to be reckoned with right now, that comes out of sort of 08. We're not that far apart age-wise. So like out of our generations,
how old are
our
you,
generation kind of permeate. 35.
You are. I'm 36. Who do you think looks older, you or me? I know the meltdown.
I don't know. The beard kind of helps. When I shave, it gets kind of fair-faced. But
I think you look older than me. I think you look older than me.
I think it's the beard. I think it's the beard and the hairline.
Yeah, they won't like that, because they like to put out that I'm 55.
But I think
I'm 60. I think I'm 60.
But I think that's the bigger underlying problem with our generation. This sort of, we want to participate in financial markets because they're wealth creation tools, but there's sort of this nihilism with a belief that they don't work for us.
They don't work for us. They don't give a shit about us. Goldberg doesn't give a shit about people, in my opinion. The people that he's representing, in my opinion.
Well, I think that
Saifu doesn't care. He just shits on people all day long, in my opinion.
Well, he shits on people and runs a business.
Allegedly.
That's profitable.
Allegedly. Vinny Viola has been very, very important to that whole thing. Way more, in my opinion, than Doug.
Well, they approach
and
each
there's
other,
a lot of
so
other good people in that business too. What's that?
Well, I mean, they started as a partnership, so I think it was more of a mutual.
So you should really go and look back at some of the early partners and what really happened there before you say that. You should really go look at the real history of what happened.
Well, fine, I'll take you up on that. I would say that I think is the bigger issue with a lot of these meme stock companies, is at the end of the day,
there's a reason he's always bragging that he's a so-called co-founder. So go back and look at it.
But I think that's a bigger problem with a lot of these meme stocks, is beyond the shareholders, beyond the corporate executives, the people down running the companies are the ones that are going to feel the effects of whatever's going on in these financial markets. And but I think that mostly covers what I wanted to cover. And we're pretty much exactly at an hour. It's like we magically planned this or something, even though we didn't.
So you don't got any other
not off the top of my head. I had a series of things that I kind of wanted to go over, because I figured it would have taken a lot of time, because there's just so many subjects that you get involved in on social media. So
ask me whatever you want.
That's a great question. So as far
Well, you got
as
me. I said
like, yeah.
$1,000 to charity for 20 minutes, and we're at an hour. So go ahead.
Hey, so this thing that you've kept bringing up at your meetings, but I haven't really seen any much elaboration on the Pulte plan. Is there some hard, fast rules, or is this sort of like a vaporware, or some sort of like you have a philosophy, not so much a hard set plan?
The Pulte plan is real.
Okay, elaborate.
It's real. What?
Elaborate.
It's real. It's real. It's just, it drives everybody nuts that it's not on time. That's on timeline.
Well,
So,
like if it's a philosophy or some sort of,
no, it's
I'd be
real.
willing to hear it.
No, it's real.
I get you're saying that, but
Yeah,
like,
it's real. It's real, and it'll be done at the right time. And I thought the time would be a lot earlier, but it's just not time. It's just not time. So
do you
now,
have an idea on what that time might be?
honestly, I thought it was going to be like 6 months ago. And some people wanted me to release it like 3 months ago, and some people want me to release it right now. It's just not time. It's just not time. So it will
Well,
happen.
can you give us some explanation maybe on what you have worked on of it though? Some sort of idea as to what formulates its general thesis.
Oh no, it's real. It's real, and it was authored by my grandfather mostly. So it was
I
authored.
get that. You keep I don't deny that I don't deny that it is real or real to you, or that it exists.
No, it's not
What
real.
I'm
It's
asking
real.
for
It's
is
real.
an explanation. Like can you give a basic explanation of it?
Well, you have to understand the issue with me doing that is that it has repercussions for a lot of different things. For instance, a lot of people um, will use whatever I say to try to further their bullshit narrative. For instance, that, like my grandfather wasn't a part of it and these type of things. He was very much a part of it. He was the author of it. And I worked with him on it, and we worked together on something, and we turned around that big company, as you know, in 2016. Now, you may not want to look at the facts, but those are the facts. That company was headed down, down, down. The stock was at $17 a share. I got involved. I led that effort on behalf of the Pulte family. A lot of you people say different things. It was my grandfather and I. We were the only ones in that business in the Pulte family. I'm just telling you, factually speaking, we were the only two in that business. We turned that business around in 2016. I served on the board there for 4 years. Marshall did not want me on the board because I was on the compensation committee, in my opinion. And in my opinion,
In your opinion, so were you on the compensation committee or were you not?
in real life, I was on the compensation.
Okay.
I'm saying in my opinion.
I just wanted to clarify what you were saying. I'm not
No, I was
disputing
saying
it one way or the other.
I was saying, in my opinion, he did not want somebody like me who had kicked out his old boss,
Okay.
Which I did. I kicked out the other CEO. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Ryan. I've said this before. I would love nothing more than for Ryan Marshall to be successful, but he's got to do a good job. And in my opinion, he didn't want me there because I was setting his compensation, and aided by kind of what's gone on with this whole Brandon Jones thing. I mean, this thing was quite a, and still is quite a scandal that he's engulfed himself in, with how he's handled it as a result. And this type of stuff should not be going on in a $20 billion company. And it bears our family name. And so I'm going to continue to fight for it and get to the bottom of this. It should not be going on in this. So that's a long way of saying the Pulte plan will come, but it will have to come at the right time.
You mentioned the company and Pulte Group and how it's performing right now. The stock price seems to be performing well. The financials seem to be, in spite of the Fed's rate hikes, seems to be doing exceptionally well under current management. So you said that you are okay with him so long as that continues, more or less. And
no, I didn't say that. First of all, it's important to know Pulte Homes has right there. I have a scholarship fund that I run with my family, and we basically give money to the employees of Pulte Homes who gave us everything that we had. There's 6,000 great employees there. Now, Ryan Marshall happens to be in charge of things like lawyers and a lot of this stuff around the Brandon Jones situation, in my opinion. And so you have a situation where it's not fair to not recognize the fact that there are a lot of great employees that have built this great business. Now, my issue is that the business has gone from being number one in the country when our family ran it to now it's number 4 in the country. And a lot of the builders, most of the builders are at all-time highs, like you mentioned, and they're at all-time highs in terms of profitability. And I think Pulte needs to get back to being gold standard. And I'll continue to stay.
And you said that it's like the number 4, or it's not the gold standard anymore. What, outside of your personal disagreements with the CEO and the situation with Brandon Jones and all that, what sort of evidence would you feel you had towards that sort of
arithmetic?
Sentiment?
It's just arithmetic. It's just math. For instance, you look at Lennar, you look at D.R. Horton. Lennar was run by the Miller family. Still is run by the family. That a small team was running it. Lennar is now close to a 50 company, a $20 billion company. D.R. Horton, Don Horton, who just passed away, he was a friend of our family's, meaning my grandfather's and mine. And he just passed away. He was a much smaller business. He got started way after my grandfather did. And that's over a $50 billion business. At one point was. Now it's a little bit shy of that. So you got these two businesses that are $50 businesses. DR, which is run by another guy who we're friendly with, Dwight Schar. And that business is well into the $3 billion company a few years ago, several years ago. So, you look at these things and it's very easy to look at it and say, oh, be a dummy and just look at, a couple of stats. But most people who know what's happened to Pulte over the years, and it's very concerning to a lot of people, not just me. And, we're going to keep on it. And it certainly doesn't help in Jones' situation going on and how they're handling it. He's handling it. And I have people tell me all the time, probably Marshall is handling it. And I'm talking, very people handling really.
What sort of people, specifically, if you can?
Well, because it's subject to litigation and stuff, I want to be careful with what I say. And I'm very, I think you've found that I'm willing to speak pretty openly, even though I am in litigation on it. But, these could be solved with a couple of meetings, a lot of these things. And instead, Ryan, in my opinion, Marshall is acting like he's guilty. And, I think you're going to find more about how he, and you've seen it, how he's really defended this guy for doing this type of conduct. And he terminated this guy.
But he fired him and he terminated him. So how is he defending him?
For cause.
Yeah, for cause. So how's he defending him, I guess? And
then he went on, and this is in the public documents, and Jones released this publicly in the appeals court, which was funny because he fought this deposition not being public and stuff like that, and then he goes and he releases it without it being confidential. But you'll see he's been still talking to Marshall, and Marshall and him have been talking about how he wants, and inquiring and coordinating and working with, in my opinion, based on proof, talking with Jones about suing me. I mean, you go look at the court records. This is after he terminated him for cause. I don't think you could find another example talking with him about suing me after you terminate an employee. Who does that? So I'd say stay tuned. And I really think it's been handled very, very poorly, in my opinion.
Is there any sort of other, I guess, companies that because you talk about your activism in the meme stock space. Is there any other companies that, because you've got your set ones so far, is there any others that you're looking at that you've thought about?
Yeah, it's just so funny seeing some of your people in here with the stuff they say. It's great. Well, I'm not going activist on some of these these meme stocks, if that's what you're talking about.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Are you just focused on some of these things? Because I'm trying to figure out if it's like a general activist thing, or if it's like I have these sort of things that interest me.
When I'm activist, we're extremely serious, and it's not that I'm not serious with some of these stuff, but with like the Pulte home situation, it's very, and it's being done seriously. With some of these meme coins and stuff, I say a lot of this stuff is just for making money, and they shouldn't listen to me.
All righty. Well, I think we squeezed the most juice we could get out of that lemon, and at least for me, I'm trying to think here. If there's anything else that comes off to the top of my head, it's strange how you plan things out and then you sit down with a person. It's like, well, that went fast.
Talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. And, maybe we can set up something. Maybe I'll think of something later and we can set up another time to talk or anything like that.
How about you coordinate a debate where
you know what? If Doug's up to it, we'll see.
He's got a lot. He's got a lot.
But I would, even if I couldn't do that, I bet there's plenty of people that would love to talk to you. Like, I know we've had compliance department who knows the inner workings and plumbings of finance. And I think that would maybe lead to some enlightening discussions, or some other people, but we'll see what we can work out. But I think for this evening, we got over an hour. That was kind of my goal. And I think I kind of expressed most of the stuff that I wanted to go over with you. So it was nice having you on, Bill.
You too. Appreciate it.
No problem.